It says we are live. I am very excited. Hopefully, this is true. So, I'm excited because I think if I did this right, and I think I did, hopefully, one, you can hear me, two, you can see me, three, I'm on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter live. So, if you are on any of those destinations, please let me know. It looks like I have one viewer, I hope. Up to three. If I have three viewers, tell me if you're watching this on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter. And tell me hi. Where are you from? Keith, hello. Where are you from? It looks like you're on YouTube, I think. Is that right? Deb's here on YouTube. Good to see you, Deb. Although I can't see you, but you can see me, hopefully. Well, I am very excited. It took me a little bit. Keith joining from Florida. You can't see it on Facebook. Huh. Well, that's a bummer. Hopefully it is. Um, I think that's Chris Ray. Is that right? Hello? Because you have a very funny font that doesn't want to display on my computer. So Deb, now it can. So that means you can see it on Facebook too. Hopefully that's a yes. Oh, yay. I'm multi-streaming. It's only taken me about an hour to figure this. Oh, you're not Chris. Okay, I'm sorry. I can't read your font, whoever you are with the funny font. All right. Well, we're up to 8 now. This is fantastic. Of course, you don't do Twitter, Deb. Okay. Well, hopefully somebody from Twitter can tell me if they can see. I'm not much of a Twitter guy, so anyway, hopefully we're on there. Um, so of course, the big news this week is the purchase of the Kirtland Temple by the LDS Church. And so on the one hand, I know a lot of my LDS friends are extremely happy about this. On the other hand, I know without exception, every single one of my Community of Christ friends are devastated. And so I have very mixed feelings because I have friends on both sides. And so I hope my LDS friends can appreciate the wonderful caretaking that the Community of Christ has done for all this time. So I hope we're not spiking the football and being like, yeah, we have it. So, um, I mean, I've told other people, imagine if the LDS Church sold the Salt Lake Temple. Like, imagine how devastated we would be. That's pretty much the situation for the Community of Christ. And so I treasure, in fact, I'm going to show some pictures today, a little bit about the history of the Kirtland Temple, and also hopefully talk a little bit about some of the Nauvoo properties. I'm having a little trouble finding some of my pictures. I had, if I had more time, if I wasn't working 3 jobs, I would have put together a PowerPoint and made this really a nicer presentation. But and you can see here behind me, if I do, I've got 2 of my Community of Christ friends, Bill Russell, who's an amazing historian, and of course Deb Luce, who's watching. And Deb is a dear friend, and I feel badly for you, but hopefully your church is in a better financial position. So I did hear one statistic. I know some Community of Christ people are quite upset, as I can imagine, um, that the Community of Christ sold the temple. And I was just looking, I'm trying to find this quote that I saw, I believe is true. Um, but it really makes a big, it helps, I think, a lot of people understand why the community of Christ felt it was time to sell. And it wasn't just the Kirtland Temple. Those the properties in Nauvoo, the what we would call the Joseph Smith translation of the Bible. And so this comment, it says that over 70% of tithe payers in the community of Christ are over the age of 65, and less than 3% of tithe payers are under the age of 40. So this means that the community of Christ is poised to lose 70 plus percent of its income within the next 15 years because those 65-year-old people are not getting any younger. And, within a generation, if trends continue, we could see in the community of Christ a 97% reduction of income. And I know there was a lot of concern. I saw a comment from a former Community of Christ member, and he said, "We've always been poor," but I don't think people recognize the dire straits. I know in the LDS Church, a lot of people say, "Hey, you know, you have to purchase your way into heaven through tithing to attend the temple." And I mean, I get that criticism. But on the other hand, it is what has helped us maintain uh, the finances we have. And I know we have $100 billion now, but back in the 50s and 60s, when David O. McKay was president, um, they were building so many churches, they were running into some serious financial trouble. And it really was an Eldon Tanner, who was called into the first presidency, who not only righted the ship in terms of finances in the LDS Church, and now we have all this money. Um, and so I certainly don't want to be spiking the football. I feel dearly for my community of Christ friends. I can imagine the loss that they feel. And to be honest, I really enjoyed the tours that the community of Christ gave. There's been another uh, criticism of the LDS Church purchasing the Kirtland Temple and as well as the Nauvoo properties, that it's going to be more proselytizing. I do believe, in fact, let me see if I can read something from Jenny Lund that she posted on Facebook. She is recently retired. Um, let's see here. Here it is. Yeah, retired as one of the church historians. And she said, and I'm quoting her from Facebook, "In the last few days, friends have asked for my take on the recent acquisition of the Kirtland Temple and other historic properties by the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. The post below by my former colleague Gary Boatwright says it better than anything I can add." So maybe this is really Gary Boatwright. "I've been asked specifically what the tours will be like, revealing anxiety that the sites will become proselytizing venues, a practice that was in place for many years at Latter-day Saint historic sites. I have now been retired for more than a year, and I cannot speak to specifics, but I can speak to generalities with a little bit of history thrown in. Hopefully my thoughts will provide some reassurance that the sites will continue to be well cared for and where history will be the primary focus," which I think in the historians community, we're more interested in the history than the proselytizing. "In 2018, leaders of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints approved a major shift in focus at historic sites when operations were transferred from the missionary department of the church history department. Leaders recognized that the audience at historic sites was composed primarily of church members, and that definition would include all churches who trace their roots to Joseph Smith. and others with an interest in history. Since then, and by the way, I think since 2018, we've had a big COVID pandemic, and a lot of people have not visited church sites because of COVID. So I think a lot of people remember the old proselytizing angle. And so I like what Gary has to say here. Since then, training for missionaries has shifted away from a proselytizing model to a historic interpretation model. The focus is still on faith. These are religious sites, after all, but we hope that those stories will be delivered in an accurate, balanced, and engaging ways. The training is built on that used to be at historic sites throughout the world and is the result of decades of research and experimentation by the very best museums and historic sites. I see this major shift in church administrative organization as a coming of age story, much like when the field we would now refer to as public affairs was separated from the missionary department in the 1970s. In that time period, it became obvious that the church had grown in size and sophistication, that having only one model of public messaging, proselytizing, was not meeting the needs of both the church, of the public and the church. Similarly, the field of public relations had developed to such a point that the public expected a certain kind of messaging. I think the same thing happened with historic sites. At no time previously has the church had a better understanding of the type of potential audiences and their specific needs, just as public affairs is a special kind of audience. Leaders came to recognize that those who seek a historic message are also a special kind of audience, and they deserve the right kind of messaging. I'm so grateful for wonderful friends and colleagues at the Community of Christ who have done such a magnificent job of researching, preserving, and interpreting those sites. The Historic Sites Division of the Church History Department, which now has stewardship of these properties, have the same kinds of skill sets that those who worked for Community of Christ. They love history. They are accomplished scholars, and they are trained in historic interpretation and interpretive planning. These sites are in good hands. I am looking forward to watching them as they meet the challenge of incorporating these sites, which so many faith traditions consider sacred, into the historic sites program of the church, and I admit to being a little wistful that I don't get to be a part of it. If you are basing your perception of the historic sites on your visits you made prior to 2019, you need to go back. I think you will see a significant difference. So I like what they said there. I loved the Community of Christ presentations at these sites, and so I'm hoping that what Gary and Jenny said there on Facebook does come to pass, and that things will continue to take a historic rather than a proselyting approach. So, so thanks. So just want to shout out to Allison, and I still don't know what that font says. Somebody said I'm a Salt Lake branch of Salt Lake. I'm not very happy at all. It just feels so sad to me. Tell me your name so I know who you are. And then Tieste, good to see you. So that's awesome. So one of the things I wanted to do was just talk a little bit about the history of the Kirtland Temple, and maybe can I share? So no, hopefully I can share if I can figure out how to do this. This is only my second live stream, and I'm still trying to figure things out. But my second and third interviews, I believe, were with Mark Staker and Dr. Richard E. Bennett, no relation, and that was one of the first things we talked about was the Kirtland Temple. And so I'm just going to, wow, I've got a lot of I'm up to 900 episodes now. In fact, I think this is episode 900 right here. So, and it's been 9 years and a month basically that we've been going here. But I just wanted to share. Hopefully, if I can figure out how to share this. Cheryl Grow from Michigan. Nice. I understand why you're still grieving, but and I'm glad you're trying to move forward. So we appreciate your sacrifice and preserving these sites for over 100 years. So more like 150 probably. Um, let's see if I can share my screen here. It's easier with two monitors. I've only got one. I'm sorry. Here we go. So I just want to point this out. Actually, somebody on Twitter had actually referenced my Dr. Richard E. Bennett um, interview because I thought it was interesting. If you see this episode 22 here, it says selling temples. Um, Dr. Bennett talked about how when Brigham Young and the LDS saints came west, they actually tried to sell the Nauvoo temple as well as the Kirtland Temple. The Kirtland Temple didn't really have very good title. But in any case, it was so important for Brigham Young to abandon those temples that they tried to sell them. And the one in Nauvoo specifically, they almost had a deal with the Catholic Church, but the Catholic Church thought it was too expensive, and so Brigham Young basically just walked away. And so it's not the first time that temples have been attempted to be sold. Um, but of course, Mark Staker, one of my favorite interviews, not only did we talk about the first Black Mormon, Black Pete, but we talked about the Kirtland Temple. Now, for my LDS listeners, we're all familiar with the scripture in the Doctrine and Covenants where it says the temple is to be a house of faith, a house of learning, a house of love. I can't remember all the things. But when the Kirtland Temple was built, it was built not only to be a spiritual center, but it was built to be a school. And so that's why in the top floor of the Kirtland Temple, Joseph Smith learned Hebrew from Joshua Satius, who was a Hebrew scholar. And so, and it was, and not only the top floor, but the other floors were meant to be a school because, you know, we take it for granted now. We have public schools, the government pays for them. Back in the 1800s, the government didn't pay for any schools. And so it was very important for the church to essentially be a school. Um, and so the house of learning, the house of faith, it was to be basically a school. One of the interesting things is that they had essentially curtains. They were called veils, but they would partition the, so the main floor and the second floor. You guys are all probably familiar. I'm going to stop sharing this for a second and see if I can show you some pictures if I can find them. Oh, I had them open. Oh, and then I closed my computer to reboot to see if it would fix my camera, and it did, but it lost all my photos. So I'm going to have to find these really quickly. But one of the interesting things, Mark Staker also mentions that, you know, we're used to the white outside of the temple that we see now, but originally, you're all familiar with here we go. Got my pictures here. Let me share my screen again. Present. Okay. Share. I know. Here we go. And so these are some photos. This is my dad's cousin in the red sweatshirt here. Um, my dad hadn't seen him since they were both 15 years old, and they live right outside of Kirtland. They're not LDS, but I stayed at their house the last time I was there. But this is what the Kirtland Temple looked like when it was first constructed in 1836. So you can see it kind of had a red roof, kind of a bluish gray. They wanted it to look like granite. You've all heard the story that has been embellished over time, where the saints, well, the embellished part of the story is the saints took their best china and they ground it up and then they mixed it in a paste basically, so that the temple would sparkle when the sun shone on it. Well, Mark's done some work, and you know the story has been embellished. Basically, when a glass broke or a plate broke, people would throw it in the garbage, and so there was a garbage dump full of broken china. So people didn't actually break their good china. They used what was already broken, but they used it in this mixture that was patented. Oh, I'm trying to remember what that guy's name was. Patented by a church member, and so they wanted it to look like it was made out of granite. And so in the Community of Christ Visitor Center, that was also part of the purchase, you can see the different colors of the temple over the years. And so we've got the 1836 view here. Here's a view in 1899. Then we have the 1955, and you can see they've got some scaffolding up. This is when I don't know if whitewashing is the right word, but they changed it from this bluish gray to the white that we're all used to now. You can also notice the bell tower here in 1836 was red, and it looks like it's more of a gold color in 1955. And then today it's kind of green. And these doors are also green here in the front. So, so this was interesting. Got a tour in the visitor center. And there's some Kirtland Safety Society notes. And maybe I should just mention, the reason why Joseph Smith essentially abandoned the temple was because of the bank failure. And so they've got a little representation of what the Kirtland Safety Society was. But Joseph literally left in the middle of the night. People were so angry that they had lost their money. And so this is about 1837. There was a national banking panic, a third of the banks nationwide. Of course, the U.S. was a lot smaller back in 1837 than it is now. But Kirtland Safety Society was among the banks that collapsed, and a lot of people lost money. And so I like this. This is kind of a painting of what it would have looked like back in 1836. You can see kind of a bluish gray, and you can kind of imagine the sparkles from the broken china and the kind of the stucco there. And so this is me and a friend in front of the Kirtland Temple. Took way too many of those. He took those pictures, not me. And then this is kind of an interesting picture because you can even see today we've got a lot of cracks in the side. That's just what's going to happen when you have it's almost 200 years old now. So we should be grateful for what we have. And of course, I guess I should mention the woman in the middle here. She is the woman. Oh, I wish I could remember her name. But she was the one who basically sued Warren Chess. She's in a polygamous. She was in a polygamous community. Was forced to marry her cousin at the age of 15, and I believe that's her friend there. So we were there. She presented at the Sunstone Kirtland a few years ago. I don't remember. But and then Seth Bryant. I just interviewed Brittany Mangelson this weekend, and I didn't know that Seth was the pastor in the Salt Lake congregation. before Brittany. I think Brittany attended church. So Seth is a 70 now in the community of Christ, and one of the caretakers, one of the people we should thank for keeping the temple open and gave some wonderful tours. So if anybody knows Seth, tell him thank you. So he's a good guy. Um, Another part of the sale, this I believe is Sidney Rigdon's house, which was across the street from the temple. And so that has also transferred with the sale of the Kirtland Temple. And I believe, is that the same house? Oh, that's just the same house twice, just a little different angle. Um, so that's once again Sidney Rigdon's house. And so I don't remember going inside that. I believe they're going to currently all the historic sites are closed until March 25th, as the LDS completes the transaction with the Community of Christ to take ownership of all these buildings. And so I don't know what else is going on there, but it's such a beautiful, amazing place. I got some really cool night photos here. These are so dark you can't really see them, but one of the things you can really see the stained glass when the light comes shining through. Uh, it's funny because here in Utah, when I see these arched windows, it always reminds me of the Kirtland Temple. And so there are a few buildings around here even that have these arched windows. But I know that in one of these pictures coming up, um, this one is what's called the angel wings. And so you can see with the light shining through, these look like wings, like the wings of an angel. And so that's really good. You can also see we've got the pulpits. So I can't remember if this is on the first or second floor, but basically we have these pulpits on both ends of the main floor and the second floor. On one side are the Aaronic priesthood pulpits, and on the other side are the Melchizedek priesthood pulpits. I believe this is on the main floor. Um, and once again, here's a better view of those angel wings. And so, of course, you can only see those at night. Those are pretty cool. This is a night shot. President of the Deacons Quorum, Aaronic priesthood, I think. And this is the teachers. This would be the priest. And then BPA. I can't remember what those stand for. It might be the bishops. I don't remember. So anyway, that's a little bit of a close-up view at night of the Aaronic priesthood pulpits. And of course, on the other end of are the Melchizedek priesthood pulpits as well. Oh, in fact, here they are. So Melchizedek high priest. I can't remember what these stand for because it's not 70s and it's not elders. You would think that's what it was, but back in 1836, we didn't have the priesthood offices as defined as they are now, and so that's why these don't quite match up with what we would currently recognize as Melchizedek priesthood pulpits. More views there of the night view of the widows. They're just so beautiful. I was really lucky to be able to do a tour at night. That's definitely something a lot of people don't get to do. As you walk inside those front green doors, they've got these round staircases in the front of the Kirtland Temple. And I thought this was really interesting. This big rope is a link from the bell tower to the ground level. And if you pull on that rope, the bell will ring. You can also see that, there's been some, looks like water damage here. So that definitely needs some TLC here. But and in fact, this is a cool picture. I think that's my leg. I was walking up. There's a very small staircase. When I attended Sunstone back in, it's been at least 5 years ago, I won a special tour, where I got to go up to the bell tower, and I can't tell what that is. I was trying to take pictures. But this is on top of the temple. So this is overlooking. You can see the railing of the temple right here by the bell tower. Beautiful view of Kirtland. And and so I'm standing. So the bell is inside this arched thing here. And so if you look in, you can see the bell. And that's my friend there. I believe that's Sidney Rigdon's house. And here's me up on top, and the bell is to my left here. And way too many pictures of this. Some of them are out of focus, as you can see. And I think my friend Kelly is behind me there. Kelly McAfee. She was there as well. And if you look inside these, I don't know if these are called shutters, but I'm going to call them shutters. You can actually see there's the top of the bell. And my friend told me that inside you can see graffiti. We saw an MH and we were like, is that Martin Harris? Is that his, graffiti from 200 years ago? I don't know. But you can see inside the bell tower here. And there's the bell up close, and you can see the birds have been around. I'm trying to remember where this is. It's still in the Kirtland Temple. Oh, this is on top of the Kirtland Temple still. I was trying to figure out, it looks like there's a big crack in the glass, so that must be through a window. I don't remember how that crack got there, but and then this is looking down from the bell tower at the building. And so once again, I think that's my foot right there. You've got this round staircase that goes to the, I must be on the third floor, so this is down to the second and the first floor. I thought that was kind of a cool thing to see, where you can see all the stairs all the way down. And obviously that's by lighting. Now, this was interesting. This is definitely a part of the Kirtland Temple that you don't get to see. In between the floors, there's a crawl space, and I'm not quite sure why they were there. I'll show you some more pictures of that crawl space in a minute, but we got to go in there. And once again, my friend was saying, hey, look at all the graffiti from, hi, I'm Rick from 1837 or whatever, 1835 maybe, even before the temple was built. I like this picture of the windows. You can see the glass is so old that it kind of distorts the view. So some of the newer this piece right here you can see is an older piece of glass, and these newer pieces, they're not as distorted because glass is kind of a liquid, and so it kind of, I don't know if melts the right word, but you can kind of see the older panes of glass versus the newer panes of glass, because of course glass breaks all the time, so they have to. But you can really see, you can definitely tell this is a really old piece of glass here with the distortion, as you see. These beautiful windows, every time I see these, they've got some of these in the St. George Temple. I was just there recently, and I wish I could have taken pictures, but there's a lot of similarities with the St. George Temple. There's the angel wings again. You can kind of see this. I think I'm on the second floor this time, and yeah, you can kind of see the angel wings there. This is some of the graffiti. I can't really make out. It looks like it says black. I don't know. I think I have a better picture somewhere. I think it says, I don't know. I can't remember. It's too hard to read. But yeah, this is inside the crawl space. You can see now we've added modern heating and air conditioning. And so it's kind of nice that it was there. And you can also see the woodwork in between the floors. I just really think, as you get going on through here. And so there's a little doorway that most people don't get to go into, but and you can see they've got a fire extinguisher. They've added a lot of electrical conveniences, obviously, since 1836. But it's right up the stairwell right there. It's like a little half door that you have to crawl into to get in. Um, I'm trying to JSS. I don't know what that says, but this is somebody who likely was one of the original builders of the Kirtland Temple and put their name on there. I don't know what happened there? I lost my. Where did my camera? There we go. I have some pictures. Don't know why I can't see these. Maybe I'm done. So anyway, that was definitely a view that you don't normally get to see of the Kirtland Temple, and I thought that was kind of fun to see. Oh, so Deb Luce told me what what those initials are: PD, President of the Deacons; PTA, President of the Teachers of the Aaronic Priesthood; and BPA is Bishop of the Aaronic Priesthood, and PEQ is President of the Elders Quorum. Oh, very good, Deb. I didn't know you were the expert on that. I'd learned that once, but I'd forgotten. So anyway, um, gosh, this is taking a lot longer than I was expecting. Um, I do want to cover also, if I can find it quickly, Kirtland Temple obviously is the uh, headliner of all the properties, but of course, the properties in Nauvoo are, in fact, maybe I should, well, let's see. I'm going to do a quick search here. Because I think it's important to mention these other properties that here, hopefully I just want to mention some of these other ones. Here, I'll show this screen. This is from the Deseret News. Present. Here we go. And so, let's see, the Kirtland Temple, obviously. See, they didn't list Martin Harris's house in there, but I wonder if there's a better list, but this is pretty good. So a lot of the historic buildings in Nauvoo, this is the Red Brick Store, where they sold Joseph Smith for President shirts. I had to get one. I should have worn it, but I hope the LDS Church continues to sell those. I thought they were fun. So just down the street to the left of this is the Joseph Smith Mansion House. This is the Red Brick Store, the Smith Family Homestead and Summer Kitchen, and the Nauvoo House. So some of the historical artifacts that I don't think get very much play because the Kirtland Temple and the Nauvoo sites are so big. Portraits of Joseph and Emma, circa 1842, attributed to David Rogers. The original door from the Liberty Jail. The characters document, 4 pages from Revelations Book 1, 7 letters from Joseph to Emma. They've got the dates listed there. The history of the church written by John Whitmer. That's huge. Manuscript notes from the 1879 interview with Emma by Joseph Smith III. That's a very important interview. We've talked about that interview here on Gospel Tangents. And then this one is huge. The Joseph Smith Finney Bible with his numerous markings as part of the Joseph Smith translation of the Bible, or what the Community of Christ refers to as the inspired version. So we've got other Old Testament and New Testament manuscripts here. Kirtland Temple furniture. The LDS Church now has the writing desk for Joseph Smith, as well as the 1820s couch from the Whitney family. Original elements from the Kirtland Temple, the oval window frame, the front door keystone and frame, the stone arch windows, original pieces of stucco and sandstone. I thought I had more pictures of that stuff. Must have to look somewhere else for that. But they've got the Nauvoo Temple Sunstone, the Moonstones, the Cornerstone, which housed the original manuscript of the Book of Mormon, which we're sad Joseph Smith put that in there because there's only like 35% of it left. So Joseph's desk from the Mansion House and Emma's trunk from the Mansion House, the Lucy Mack Smith rocking chair, 2 Smith family chairs from the Mansion House, Emma Smith's walking stick from the homestead, the washstand associated with Hans Mill. And I guess I should mention Hans Mill was sold 5 years ago to the LDS Church. And my friend Paul DeBarth we talked about his book on the archaeological digs there. Hopefully the LDS Church can, work on Paul's foundation and do more research there. I know Paul found some musket balls there and things like that. So I don't know what the sampler, the bowl, and the drink was from the red brick store and the homestead, but this is inside the Joseph Smith home. And so I was really surprised also some of the non-historic buildings. If you've ever been to the visitor center that was owned by the Community of Christ, there's this beautiful window that has a great view of the Kirtland Temple. I was surprised that was part of the sale as well. There's also a few private residences there, some undeveloped lots in Kirtland. So other historic buildings. Oh, so now we're going to move on to Nauvoo. And God, I'm taking a lot of time. Well, let's go over this really quick. So we'll move on to Nauvoo. We've got several homes: Hiram and Thankful Clark, Aaron and Polly Johnson, William and Rosanna Marks, Sydney and Phoebe Rigdon home. So we've got both of Rigdon's houses. One's in Nauvoo and one's in Kirtland. Jonathan and Rebecca Wright home, the first hotel, and the stone stable built by Louis Bideman, who of course was Emma's second husband. The maintenance shop on Bain Street. And I think I was trying to figure out these Nauvoo blocks and lots. Oh, I thought I saw it. Block 149. I was looking for that because that is the site that Paul DeBarth was excavating, the original Times and Seasons newspaper office. And so I know Paul had wanted, after his archaeological dig, to rebuild that, and hopefully Paul's wishes will come true now. So once again, building on Paul DeBarth's foundation, literally in this case, because that's all it was a foundation. So several of those undeveloped lots, and hopefully the LDS Church can reconstruct it so that we'll really know how it was like in Nauvoo. I think that's it. So really interesting things there. And just want to say once again, I don't think I can say this enough. Thank you to my Community of Christ friends for preserving this history. And I hope now that the LDS Church owns it, we can even take it to the next level and do all the things that the Community of Christ wanted to do, but just didn't have the resources to do that. So Latter-day Digest, howdy. I think that's Gene Judson, I believe. So good to see you. And let's see here. I know that somebody asked me, I sent out my newsletter. We're up to 24 people now. And I said, give me any questions you've got. I got a few questions from some friends today. And of course, the first question I got, let me see if I can pull it up, but it was way too hard. I can't answer this question, but I thought it was interesting. I'll see if I can find it. I'm in the wrong account here. So Todd Walker asked, Where exactly in the temple did Christ appear? Which floor, pulpit, etc.? So I'm sorry, Todd. That's only Joseph and Oliver know that for sure. um, I mean, I would just be guessing. I don't know. But there is a really fantastic painting of Jesus. Let's see if I can share this. Um, Oliver and Joseph in Kirtland Temple. And I wish I knew who the name of the artist, but this is one of my favorite paintings. Oh, it's this one here. Make it big. Oh, it's not big. Here, let me look one more time before I share it. See if I can get a good one. Oh, there's a couple of them. Every time I click on it to make it bigger, it doesn't help. Let me share this screen. You can see here, this is just a quick Google search. I just love this. Based on this artist, I would say it was in the first floor because I know that's where it is. And so you can see these curtains around. They used to have like dividers so that you could have little separate rooms in here. And, this is obviously representing Joseph and Oliver. There's other representations of this that I think they're pretty interesting, but I like this one. Oh, that one's way too small. So anyway, sorry, Todd, I can't answer that. I would only guess. Also, did others who came to give keys appear in the same place? I would be guessing once again. I think I really can't answer that. I would just be guessing. So thanks for asking. Sorry, I can't answer it any better. God, I was only going to go an hour. Do you guys have any questions? I have another one I can do. Do you have a guess as to which side leaked the news of the sale? I didn't hear any leaks. I know my friend Steve got something, and I don't know how he found out. But when I found out, I was teaching class, and I think they announced it sometime between 1 and 2 p.m. on March 5th, because I know it was my son's birthday. So that was Tuesday, I think it was. And so I let out my class. It was about 2 o'clock when I logged onto Facebook really quick just to see. And how I found out about it was David Howlett had just announced it. And I think his post was about 30 minutes old. So, yeah, it was probably announced about 1 o'clock, right when 1 p.m. Mountain, 2 Central. That sounds right. So that was when I found out. If anybody knew before that, I don't know how they knew. John Hayacek, yeah, apparently he did know something. I know I did watch Steve's interview of him, and there was a lot of speculation that didn't turn out to be true there. I mean, it was good. There was a lot of good stuff there too, but there was a question about, is the LDS going to shut it down? Because they didn't know. I know as a condition of the sale, they wanted to, the community of Christ asked that the temple continue to be open to the public. And so as a condition of the sale, the LDS Church has agreed to keep it open to the public and allow the community of Christ researchers to different documents and things like that. And so I know John and Steve were speculating on that. And that's what I meant when it's speculating, because they didn't know, because it hadn't been officially. Because the official announcement said, yeah, it's going to be released to the public, and basically, and I hope this is true. Every time there's a change in ownership, they always say nothing's going to change and things change. But I hope that it will continue to be a historic place, and that we will continue to have those historic tours and that sort of a thing. So I know John Hayacek also said that he put in an offer to buy, but I I mean, I don't know how John knows this stuff, but clearly he's got his sources. So, um, so I think John did offer to buy the temple. He said it was, I think he said it was 115 million. Um, so I don't know. I don't know. That's a lot of money. I'll say that. Um, let's see. Oh, I did have, and I hope this isn't a spiking the football question. It kind of sounds like it is a little bit. Um, because I had a couple of friends come up to me today and they said, "So, when's the LDS Church going to buy the original temple lot?" And because, well, the weird thing is, a week ago, this same person had said, "Do you think that the Community of Christ would ever sell the Kirtland Temple?" And I said, "Well, they're in financial trouble. I could see it happening." He said I said it within the next 100 years. I don't think I said that. I think it was said within the next 20 or 30 years, because that seemed more like the time frame. I know that's been a question a lot of LDS people love to ask, and it's very offensive to my Community of Christ friends. And so they were giving me a hard time because they said I said 100 years. I was like, I don't think I said that, but maybe I did. Uh, but I was thinking 20 to 30 years. And I was really surprised not only that the Kirtland Temple sold, but I figured it would be more piecemeal. Um, I was also shocked, absolutely shocked, that basically Community of Christ has sold all of the historic properties in Nauvoo. I did not expect that. You can see the Joseph Smith house, but I just assumed Community of Christ would approach this in kind of a piecemeal. What was it, 10 years ago, the LDS Church purchased the printer's manuscript from Community of Christ for $35 million. And so I figured it would be like, well, here's Joseph Smith's home. Here's the red brick store. Here's this. And so I was surprised that it was all consolidated into one purchase along with the Kirtland Temple. I figured the Community of Christ would hold on to that longer because it's such a crown jewel of the restoration. And so I hope that this really shores up the Community of Christ. They're looking towards their future more than their past. I in a lot of ways, I see a lot of similarities with Brigham Young trying to sell the Nauvoo temple because he was like, we can build another temple. And of course, St. George, Salt Lake, Logan, and Manti were commissioned by Brigham Young. I know he didn't live to see Salt Lake done, but he was there for St. George, I believe. And, so when you're in desperate trouble, financial trouble, I mean, I asked another upset Community of Christ friend because he was like, we've always been in financial trouble. Like, what's the big deal? But I was like, what are you going to do? You're going to continue to go into debt? He didn't really have an answer for that. But other than, why are we giving up on our history? And I understand that. I can see that. But I also see, I hope Community of Christ is looking at this just like Brigham Young did, abandoning the Nauvoo Temple and the Kirtland Temple. He tried to sell both. And so, the church, the LDS Church is here today because Brigham Young abandoned the Nauvoo Temple. And so I hope that this will allow my Community of Christ friends to be around for a long time. So I consider them dear, dear friends. Deb, Paul, Bill Russell behind me here. I know Bill's getting up in age. I don't know if he'll be around for another 20 years, but I hope he's around as long as he can. So, Deb, I like your comments. 20 to 30 years was a generous guess. I truly fear that the people who will now stop contributing completely will only expedite the end. And I think that's probably common among many Community of Christ. And I agree with you, Deb. I pray and try to hope that I am wrong, but time will tell. So um, hopefully you can get your Ann Eldon Tanner to straighten things out financially, because I hope you guys are around a lot longer than 20 or 30 years. So longer than me. So anyway, let me go back to the temple lot for a minute. Um, I will tell you what I told my friend, because of course everybody wants the temple lot. My understanding, and for those of you who don't know, maybe I'll give a brief history. So of course, 1838, Governor Boggs issued the extermination order in Missouri to expel all Mormons from the state. And so a guy by the name of Granville Hedrick, and maybe I should share this really quickly. Um, Here, I'll show you this. Present. Okay. So if you really want to understand more about the temple lot, Gene Adams, he's the best expert outside of the Church of Christ temple lot. Gene is LDS, but he's got a great book on the Church of Christ temple lot. So basically, in summary, I just recommend this interview if you're curious about it. And let me also mention here really quickly, David Hall. This guy, there is nobody who knows more about the original plans for the Kirtland and Jackson County temples than David Hall. Maybe John Hamer. They're both really good. But, the original plan for Kirtland, Nauvoo, and Jackson County, Missouri was for 24 temples. Now, I kind of think temples is a little bit of a misnomer. I wonder if I can find my picture. Let's see if I can find this really quick. But there were supposed to be 24 temples. Now, in I want to say 1853, I believe that's right. Guy by the name of Granville Hedrick, and you'll notice him in the Doctrine and Covenants. He's kind of a early church leader, and he had a revelation that said it was time to come back. Now, this is before the Civil War, and so Mormons were not well liked back then. I'm going to share another screen here. And so the weird thing is Granville didn't actually come. His brother came, and I can't remember his brother's name off the top of my head. But sometimes we refer to the temple lot group as the Hedrickites because they go back to Granville Hedrick. And so he said that the people should come back to Jackson County, which was pretty amazing because Mormons were not well liked. And so you can see this white church here. I'll go back here. Let's make it a little bit bigger. This is my friend Matthew Turner. You can see in the background there the stone church, which is the oldest church in Missouri, built by Joseph Smith III. And so that's really a beautiful building. You guys should check it out sometime. There's beautiful stained glass in there. But this white building here on the right is what's known as the Temple Lot Church. And so this area here, this green grass here, was where the first of the 24 temples were supposed to be built. And somewhere, let me see if I can find that. I have a picture that I'm not going to be able to find, of course. They have postcards, dang it, where people stand to mark the foundation of the original Temple Lot Church. But basically, this is a little bit better. There's also a little walking tour. You can see Matthew's looking at this plaque. There's like 14 sites to sign. But basically, the foundation of the original temple was supposed to be about here, over to here, over to here, over to here. And there's a cool picture. If you go, this is the main entrance over the church here. And over here on this side of the building, they have a little visitor center kind of in the basement. And if you go in there, they have these little postcards where these people are standing on the original foundation of the first temple. I should mention that when we refer to the temple lot, so Granville Hedrick and his group purchased this, excuse me, before the Civil War, when Mormons were still not liked, and so they took ownership of the original temple lot. Now, having said that, the lot where the Community of Christ Temple is, do I have a good picture here? Not really. I should have. Well, you can. Here, I'll just do this one here. This is part of the original 24 temple lot, as well as the LDS Visitor Center, which is. Do I not have a picture of that? I gotta have a picture of that. I know I've taken pictures of it, but of course I can't find them. Oh, well, this is inside. Well, heck, I'll show you some. Well, this is really interesting. Okay, I think I'm finding my stuff now. Okay, this is kind of an interesting. I don't believe that the stone church is part of it, but all this area on the right side here, so you've got the Temple Lot Church here. Behind it, you've got the Community of Christ to the Temple. And then to the south, you have the LDS Visitor Center, which I can't believe that I can't find. But all three churches own portions of the original 24 temple lot. And this is the picture I was telling you about. Okay, so you can see the white church, the Temple Lot Church here, and then these people are standing on a foundation. And I think you can get postcards of this. It's really cool. You can also see how old this photo is. Look at these cars. This looks like it's in the 60s. In fact, this might be the old church. I should just mention here that in 1990, an arsonist burned down the Temple Lot Church, the white building. And my understanding is that they didn't have insurance, and so the LDS Church chipped in to build. And let me back. This is the chapel now inside that white building, so you can see it's a nice large chapel. This is, let's see if I can read this. I can't read the plaque. Can I zoom? It's not letting me zoom. I think this is what the original church looked like in like 1890, and that one was burned down also by an arsonist. So this is the second church that was burned in 1990, and then this is my friend Randy. What's his last name? I can't remember his last name, but his father is the president of the Church of Christ Temple Lot. And there you can see the chapel again. Randy Sheldon. So you can see standing Thomas Sheldon. That's his grandfather. Otto Fetting is in this page. Is that Otto Fetting? I didn't know I had a picture of him. That's awesome. So I could go on forever. I'll try to go just a few minutes more, but Otto Fetting is interesting. So going back to where's the foundation? Oh, this is great. So Otto Fetting was originally a member of the Community of Christ, our LDS Church at the time. And back in the 1920s, he left and joined the Temple Lot Church. and said, we need to rebuild the temple. And so you can see they dug out this big hole. These are the getting ready to put the foundation in. And unfortunately, the Great Depression hit and stopped construction, and they didn't have enough building or enough money to build the temple. And so for a few decades, this was just an ugly eyesore, an ugly hole. But they did find the original markers, Southeast Corner Temple. I think that's what that stands for, 1831. These were the original cornerstones laid for the temple in Jackson County that the Temple Lot Church has. And I can't remember, this is a backwards 4, which is some sort of a surveyor's mark. I'm not a surveyor, so I don't understand. And then I think that's west. I can't remember. But these 2 stones were the original markers, and they found those when they dug the foundation. And so you can go into the little museum there and see the stones there. And then you can see the original foundation. And then, of course, you can see the Community of Christ Temple there. So, so it sat like that for a couple of decades. Harry Truman is from Independence, and so the city council, I believe, said this is an ugly eyesore, and the Church of Christ Temple Lot did not have money to fill it in. And so the city council said, we don't want to have this eyesore when Harry Truman comes home. Can we fill it in for you? We'll pay for it. And so that's what happened. And so now it's a nice kind of grassy field now. And oh, this is another one. This is what the original church looked like in 1889 to 1898. And so you can see how small this might be everybody. Oh, and in fact, James Hedrick, son of Granville Hedrick, George Frisbee, and George Cole. So these are really cool pictures. Like, you know, I'm a geek. I geek out on this stuff. But and then I think this is Bishop Frisbee holding the cornerstone that I was just telling you guys about. And you can see they've dug out the foundation. So that was pretty cool. So yeah, Randy Sheldon, great guy. If you know Randy, tell him hi for me. That was a fun little tour. So, so going back to that question, will the LDS Church ever buy the Temple Lot? I'm sure they would like to. In my view, I mean, Church of Christ Temple Lot, if I remember, I think they have about 10,000 members worldwide. I don't think they're in a ton of financial distress like the Community of Christ has been. But I will tell you, there's a little bit of I want to call it a hostile takeover trying to happen. From what I understand, you know, we've talked about the Brazil group, prophet by the name of Mauricio Verger. Here, let me share one more time. Okay, share. Okay. So I interviewed a man by the name of John Pratt. He's a great grandson of Parley P. Pratt, and his great uncle is Orson Pratt, who was the apostle. So he joined with the Brazil group. Somewhere I think here I have a picture of the gold plates. I do. So this is Mauricio Berger here on the left. He lives in Brazil. He claims that the angel Moroni gave him the golden plates and that he's translated a portion of the golden plates. Behind me somewhere I have a copy of the sealed portion of the Book of Mormon. He hasn't translated everything, but this was a picture that John gave me. Unfortunately, John passed away from COVID. It was before I published this interview. When did I publish this? back in 2021, December. He passed away in like October, I think, and I'd interviewed him in July. So I was very sad about that. But at any rate, there's been a lot of people from Church of Christ Temple Lot that have become kind of affiliated with, and and Mauricio's church. Their short name is the Reborn LDS Church, and they also operate on common consent. And from what I understand, members of Church of Christ Campalot are kind of want to be members of both churches so that they can vote to take ownership of the temple lot. And of course, when temple lot people find that out, they try to excommunicate those people. So, um, so I would say it's more likely that there's a hostile takeover than than the LDS Church buys them. As far as I know, uh, they seem like they're in. I mean, they're not a rich church at all, but they seem like they're doing okay, like they're going to function. So I don't, I don't see them selling it. But last week I said, yeah, they're not going to. Community of Christ isn't going to sell the Kirtland Temple, not for another 20 or 30 years. So, see, I'm not a very good prophet, that's for sure. So, Corey said, I enjoy hearing your perspective. Weekly live stream. Yes, I hope so. It will depend on my schedule. I will tell you, most of you know, I do a lot of freelancing for several television networks, and March Madness is almost here. I actually have a game tomorrow in Reno, so I'll be flying to Reno, Nevada. UNLV, Nevada, Reno. Or I guess they go by Nevada. They used to go by Nevada, Reno. So anyway, I'll be doing that game tomorrow from Reno, Nevada. So if anybody's in Reno, let me know. We can go to dinner, lunch. I don't know. I'm flying in tomorrow and I'm flying out Sunday. So, um, and then so once the NBA season ends, my Fridays are usually pretty open. I had intentions. I know I did this in February, and then I just got too busy. But yes, the intention that hasn't been followed through very well is to do these every Friday. Usually my Fridays are pretty good unless I'm traveling. So, and I will also mention one of the Fridays I went back to Washington, D.C. I just got a call from my friend John Lefgren. He's like, hey, when's that interview coming out? It'll probably be out within a couple weeks. But we met at the Tunisian ambassador's house. I've never done anything like that before. It was super fun. Um, so Rod Meldrum was there. John Lefgren was there. Um, a lot of people associated with Heartland. And no, I am not a Heartlander, but I have a lot of friends who are, and they do some pretty cool stuff. And so John is working with the Tunisian government. And this is going to be coming in my interview. I interviewed a woman. Her name is spelled Eryj. It's pronounced Arish. And she's from Tunisia. I don't want to give away too much, but she thinks that she has a link with Mulek, as in the Mulekites, and she thinks that they came from Jerusalem, stopped in Tunisia on their way to North America. So, a lot of Book of Mormon people or Book of Mormon skeptics will say, well, if you can get some non-members to be on board. And so Harland, whether you believe what they're doing is true or not, they're trying to convince the skeptics. And so you got to hand it to them. I don't know how they got this Tunisian tie, but if you look, the ancient Phoenicians in 600 BC controlled Syria, Israel. They skipped over Egypt, but along North Africa, and Tunisia was a very stronghold of the Phoenician Empire. And so she has a really interesting tie with the Mulek that I'll let her explain that. And makes me want to go to Tunisia. It was never wanted to do that before, but she made it sound really interesting. So Anyway, that was where I was on one of those Fridays that I couldn't do my live stream. But so I'll be publishing that hopefully within a couple weeks. So, all right. Any other questions you guys have for me in the chat? Looks like we got up to 28 people too, so that's cool. Looks like we've been going for about 75 minutes, so I went a little longer than I was expecting. But anyway, let me know if there's anything in particular you want to talk about next week. I was going to go into more of the Nauvoo sites, and maybe we can do that. My tentative plan, I've got 2 or 3 interviews, and I want to release them all. I wish I could duplicate myself. So Brittany Mangelson, I interviewed her a few weeks ago before the news broke. I'm going to try to see if I can talk to her, but I don't know. She's busy. But she's the pastor here for the Community of Christ congregation here in Salt Lake. So I'm trying to put that out. I wish we'd have known about the temple, where I would ask her about it. And then Arish, I mentioned her. And I've got a book by Eric Huntsman and Deidre Green on the atonement. I thought that would be a good Easter. So we've got Easter coming up this month. And I also have George Potter. I talked to him a while ago about Mount Sinai. He thinks it's in Saudi Arabia. And I think he's got a really compelling case. And so that's going to be a fun interview. And yes, Brittany's awesome. I love Brittany. So I'm glad you're looking forward to that, Cheryl. So that's a lot of fun. All right. Well, let me know if you want to talk about Nauvoo or some other things. I have some pictures from Nauvoo that I was planning on sharing, but apparently I planned to share too much. And I talk too much. So anyway, thanks everybody, and appreciate you for coming to the live streams. Tell your friends. Help me not have 4 jobs, and I'll do this full time. So thanks again. And by the way, if you want a mug like over my shoulder here for hot chocolate or coffee, whatever you drink, no judgment here. If you want a hat over there, ties, and help support the channel. So thanks for listening. I'll let you guys go.